So today, 3 o'clock, I call this meeting to order of the Purchasing 2002 Financial Management and 2012 Financial Management Committee agenda. So one of the items will be to discuss our names today. It's rather long. So I call this meeting to order at 3 o'clock, acknowledging that we have quorum. We have 4 of our 7 members missing. Dr. Langford, Mary Isabel, and Mr. Ellis. But we do have quorum. So I call it to order. Bob, would you give us the invocation?
Lord, we're grateful for our life, for our welfare, for the blessings that you give us each and every day, especially your Son, who gave his life that we might have eternal life. And as we do the things that are necessary for this county, may we be of the same mindset that your Son was here upon this earth. Would be, and put all selfishness aside. We're always grateful for the fact that we have life in you. We have all the things that are necessary. Help us to use the wisdom from above We ask this in your Son's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. So can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Agenda approved. Recognition of the public, we have none today. Approval of the minutes. We have the December 12th minutes in front of us.
So moved. Second.
And I will abstain. I wasn't here. Oh, I cannot. I will approve in form, because we need 4 votes, because we were just making quorum, gentlemen. So, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Minutes approved. Report of the committee chairman. I do not have anything to report other than the items that we're going to discuss. I would like to just briefly mention and ask, as I was reading the title of our agenda, that we're the 2002 Financial Management and the 2012 Financial Management Committee. Why are we both?
So the 12's completely implemented your vote.
Very good. And we're probably some other committees also. And we're the Investment Committee, the Purchasing Committee. Which other one am I missing?
The other one. It's not completely implemented.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Report of the law director. He's not present. Does anyone know if Law wanted to come? Oh, there he is.
I think he wants to speak under my report.
Okay. We were just at your report of the law director.
Everything's great. World's a wonderful place.
I'm glad you could be here.
Anything else?
Do you have would you like to speak under the finance director, or do you have something under your position?
About Title VI.
My biggest concern right now is, as Mr. Long pointed out, Title VI. That's really going to give us some problems, and I don't believe that Mr. Shope really picked up on the urgency, other than the fact it was a man-hour or a labor increase as far as an employee. And to be perfectly honest, if it gets shoved in either one of our directions, there's no way it can be handled properly, much less handled at all, unless an employee is dedicated to this. And I believe between Mr. Long and myself, I'm of the opinion, not to pass the buck, that he needs help more than I do. I'm still weighing out. I just got handed probation, so I'm still working my way through probation department to figure out what kind of needs I have there. So I think he's in better need of it, and I would be implementing a program from the very beginning, and he's got a head start, as it were, in this. But that's all I have to report that's of urgency.
Very good. We will pick up that topic some more in just a moment. after our trustee speaks on the report of the trustee.
Okay. So far, we have collected about a little over 74% for 2024, which is just a percentage lower than for 2023, yet we have 2,200 more parcels this year. So I think that's really good. I think we're doing well on our collections at this point. Half of Sumner County waits till the end of February to mail their payments. So we get a bunch of the payments in March that are post-March, so they're not late. So at the end of March, I'll have great totals.
Excellent. When do the mortgage companies send in? Are they already in?
Most of them are already in. We have a few stragglers that come after the first of the year, but most of them try to pay by the end of December.
Okay. So you're pleased with collections?
Yes.
Excellent.
Cindy, let me ask you on the report itself, we've got 3, November, December, and January on the balance sheet. And this is probably an easy answer for Lisa and David. On the general purpose school funds, in November, we were at $108 million. It went up to 147, stayed pretty consistent at 153 for January. Where did that money come from?
We start collecting in October.
Really,
So it's just an allocation down to the school. Okay.
November, December should be good. And then you'll start going back off after March.
Gotcha. Thank you.
With that comment that they'll be going down big time, we're okay with our cash flow while we're on trustee. I just want to make sure you don't anticipate any problems in the cash flow for the year.
No, what I'm saying is your property tax is predominantly collected before it becomes delinquent.
Right.
So March forward, you're gonna be going down. Back, all the way back to next November.
Yes. I just wanted everyone to hear that, because you know, so they'd be going down, that we're good on cash flow.
That's just the normal pattern for the Dutch amounts.
Thank you.
We monitor those readings.
And David gives me a head up when it's time to make our debt payment. Make sure we have liquidity to take care of that.
Excellent. Any other investment questions at this time?
Yes, the mayor's report.
That's because I was just going to go back. Yeah, we were just
here. Making sure.
Yes. So without objection.
I've got one for all directors. We had talked in the last meeting about looking at previous statutes or current statutes about a charter for the investment committee. If one existed way back when, that still is on the books that we just don't know about. And I think you had agreed to research that between meetings.
Charter on this specific committee?
A resolution.
Yeah.
Oh, resolution. I'll be honest with you, I don't recall what the outcome of that was. It's been so long since we've met, I'll have to, can I just email the committee that?
Yeah.
I'll get that email to you.
As far as I can recollect, we don't have one right now. There was a discussion of an official investment committee when there was a $30 million hospital settlement. We spent several months through subcommittees and determined, because you're limited to a percentage of your smallest fund's idle balance, that it was such a small percentage that they would create an investment committee. Unless there was something before my time, there's not been one that I'm aware of. But we can get her kind of close off.
Yeah, and if there's some kind of best practice the state recommends that meets statutory requirements, I mean, investment committee charters can be very long, they can be very short. I'm just trying to make sure we get it right.
So you mean a policy and a resolution?
Yes.
I think we have.
Okay. So I guess I don't think we can make a resolution, but David's going to research it between meetings and come back with it.
And I'll get with Mr. Long as well, because I'll need that too, in case any decisions are made to revamp it, so that I can be ahead of the game on that.
And I do think we are waiting back from the Committee on Committees about appointing, I don't know if it's chairman of this investment committee or the members themselves. I'm a little fuzzy on which we're trying to accomplish by doing that. I was understanding this committee could serve as investment committee when we, amongst us, we could pick chairman, but I may be wrong on that.
I think he was wanting to go back into the general law because it had some language about protection to protect the community.
Okay.
Because the other one, for 2012 Act doesn't mention it, but the other one basically gives you, I guess, a better word, hold your arm once for honest mistake. I think that was the consensus that you guys had at the time. Okay. I think the recommendation was for this committee to serve.
Okay.
Unless I'm wrong, it's made with back in minutes.
Did we acted on that? I think we had a resolution, so we before that.
I think you guys voted to send the committee on committee to recommend yourself.
Okay. And Terry, maybe we can work offline, but I just think we can get Chrissy focused on the committees, if we can get the committees or the members actually.
And till that time, if I'm not mistaken, that responsibility falls under this committee as a whole. So.
Yeah, I think it's determining how best to do the committee meetings. Do we combine it into this meeting, or do we have a standalone investment committee
To focus.
and with a smaller group amongst us that needs to report back to this committee? So I think those are the few things we've got to sort out.
I will put it on whole business next time, and we'll come back with a path forward.
Agreed.
Anyone else have any trustee type of items? Without objection, I'm going to fall back to asking the mayor if he has a report for the committee.
No report, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We move forward to the report of the finance director.
I have an updated implementation plan. Not a lot's changed since last month. We've been training and moving along, but our big issue we've got, just like a lot of the employers at large, your average length of employees has significantly decreased, so we spend more and more time training. The way we've tried to combat that is actually increasing or modifying our SOPs to be more descriptive. However, at this point, just because of the growth of the county, the workload and the number of overtime hours, we're kind of bogged down on all those projects right now. And that's why next year through the budget process, we're requesting actually an additional accountant and, as discussed in my report on the next item, a Title VI / FMLA coordinator, because that's a process which we don't believe has been handled entirely the way it should be. But that seems to be item 80, unless anybody's got questions.
So that would be adding a person in the fall.
After the while. Okay. And I have a whole list of things that we need them to work on right now.
We had an available body somewhere else, or at least half of an FTE that we were going to move.
We moved all those to payroll, and we've been training the employees right now. We're hoping when we drop this contract this month to utilize part of that to actually start moving forward with the Chronos agitation for two large departments, and I'll discuss that back in the Chronos in a little more detail. Okay. Of the 30% that still have not fallen under the Act, Financial Management Act, what progress has been made? Well, that's what I'm saying. We've got the bid out. This is the first meeting we've had to discuss of actually awarding the bid to start automating the Chronos system. There's a lot of work involved in actually automating that. There's a lot of little issues I can discuss several of those.
And I would like to hold that until Sheriff Craddock gets here, because we've discussed a couple of pieces of that, and it'll all work in together.
It's under Chronos. I've got several discussions with right now. And we are making progress. The big one's change management. You've got to realize the employees fill out Excel sheets, and we're done, not necessarily electronically correctly. They've got to be able to approve, is that the word I'm looking for? Them and their supervisor approve the correct hours for us to upload. That's the issues we've got with the large departments. The small departments, several of them still need to configure, and we also have the issue of where employees are paid in advance. That's an issue. Anytime we try to automate something, that's going to create issues. That's another item. Item B and C are kind of together. Item B, I've actually got Scott here, and he's I think several of you have met him. He's the, I guess, grant account / project manager through the finance department. He's been through a few trainings, Title VI, but Title VI involves a lot of issues with we've got to do it for our grants, but also through payroll, we probably need to be doing a few additional things that's never really been done either. And he can kind of discuss the training of what the state alluded to him was generally most of the Title VI is done through an HR department, and usually they have one or more FTEs. I mean, Davidson has a full-time department. We think here probably around half to 3/4 of an FTE can do it correctly. Right now, we can't find documentation for some of the stuff we can find boxes. As far as I'm going on it right now, maybe Scott found something different.
I have a quick question. Does the Title VI involve the Family Medical Leave Act? Is
No.
that under that, or that's
No,
separate?
that's items. That's the next
Okay,
item.
that's fine. I just wanted.
These are two separate items, but, and then I've got actually an email here to discuss the items relating to FMLA. As the county gets larger, this gets more pervasive on both of them. And the Title VI actually, that's just a few things on the state website.
When you tell us about the Title VI, I'm interested in the legal issues and how we might get in trouble if we're not covering them. So when you summarize it, could you hit those harder for me?
Yep. The biggest thing is like, so for Title VI, it's basically like our non-discrimination against anybody. This is all, so for us that really dug into it when we started, it was based off of the grants. Well, it was discovered it was much more than just our grants that were affected by it. So, our employment practices, we have to be following that as well because we're funded by grant, or funded by federal and state. So, if we aren't following this, we're going to we could potentially see significant lawsuits based on discrimination. This person's supposed to be taking complaints and be available pretty much all the time. They do all the investigations. They report it to the state. They're supposed to be reporting annual reports to multiple agencies throughout the state, and that's not only just for the grant side. So each grant, depending on the stipulations, you have to provide all of those surveys and self-assessments on top of your yearlies. And then I'll have to dig more into the HR side of things. I haven't dug into that very far yet, but it looks like to us it was just self-assessments were done to appease the grant side of things. It was a checkbox. There's supposed to be all kinds of signage across all county buildings, not just this county building. It's supposed to be everywhere, and it's not only including like discrimination towards race, color, ethnicity, disabled, anything that you can think of is what this covers. It's not just going to affect our grant system, it's going to affect us as a county.
What I'm saying, we need at least 3/4 of a full-time, competent, generally done by HR. I'm not saying we need an HR department. I'm not saying for this one function, but I am saying that we need to set it up properly for the complaint and all the mechanisms. And by my best estimate, it's going to take at least 3/4 of an employee to do it properly. To maybe the full person, but the reason I put FMLA under, we have some issues, and my anticipation is if it does not take a full-time employee, they can work on FMLA issues across the county.
If I could add to that, and this doesn't apply just to the county, I believe on my research it could apply to third-party contractors and vendors. I mean, it goes deeper than what we do. We've got to make sure the people we're using are doing it too.
Yeah, for using certain grants they've got.
I saw that. How do we monitor that? I
We
mean,
make them fill out forms and make sure they're not compliant. We've done a lot of it. The big one that's lacking that I know of right now is we do not have a formal complaint procedure, and we also need a way to track complaints and some of the other demographics. We gather them, but I'm not sure they're necessarily gathered to the extent they should be. We just started digging into it. It's a large process on top of all the other backlog processes. So right now, I'm put some limited resources, put some Scott, be looking at it some, and I think Eric's been looking at some, but what I'm saying, we need a good, probably our best bet would be to put somebody in finance next year. I'd go out and recruit somebody from somebody else's HR department. Would be our quickest way, and then we basically start grabbing their policies, otherwise we'll be working a lot from the ground up.
And one of the big issues we're gonna run into in the short term is that, Tennessee's, training system runs through TDOT's training. You cannot attend TDOT's training unless you're the appointed coordinator.
We've appointed one in the past, but they weren't necessarily there for complaints for employees and vendors. The whole mechanism doesn't look like it was completely or adequately set up over in the county, since the county's been in, that we can tell. Just enough to skim by.
Do we have any vacant positions sitting in other departments that budget can move over?
That would be, a lot of them would be questions of statutory positions or, and people have frictional vacancies, but long-term vacancies, no.
If you could just look through that and see, because right now, what we're talking about, if this all was to go smoother, what you're saying, we're still looking at August or September, and then we have a lot of workload, and we're not up and running with this thing for a year.
Right now, we could do something in the interim. I mean, we've got to have somebody at least interim handling it to do TDOT. We're gonna start losing grants in the short order very quickly, and probably, I guess, our first one may be the litter grant, we'd fall into that. We'd have to look and see, but we've got several recurring grants that we have to look at rather quickly. So, as we're saying, we've handled one temporarily, the TDEC.
Yeah, our TDEC one is fine for right now. I was able to do that training, so I have my certificate for the TDEC, but I don't have the official TDOT certification.
And we are gonna put in all the bid requirements and require that, because we have been doing that.
Correct.
Because we're running a SWIG project right now, and we're doing sub-recipient monitoring, because we're running some issues with some of our sub-recipients. But we are doing everything we can, but the complete process at all haste needs to be set up completely.
Can I just ask, can you make Scott your certified person for now? I mean, I know he's doing the grant work, but if that makes him the trainer.
Right now, we're trying to finish up all the projects that he inherited, and they're like,
But I don't want to lose
we're
grants.
running into with stuff going on.
Don't want to lose those grants.
We're doing grants, and we're handling those right now, the ones we can. As we're saying, we already handled TDEC, and we're actually applied for additional money on the SWIG. Looks very promising. So we are moving along, and if we run into an urgency for the TDOT, then we'll start trying to look at it. But right now, every time we're pulling resources, all we're doing is shuffling something from something else, and we're getting a longer and longer backlog, and we're running more and more overtime. And the same thing right now, several of our trained staff members are going to be very hard to replace. We keep going down the road.
So if you get up against the wall and you see that we've got to have a certified hired person, and Scott is explaining to us, what do you need from the committee structure? I don't want it to feel like, third Thursday or something, and there's no more committees, and you've got to make him the certified person, because we got to have the training to keep the $50,000 grant on Monday or something.
The same thing, if your grant's going to be approved, it's going to go to the county commission for appropriations and approval of the grant, so it can all be done at the same time. The grant should be approved by the commission. So that's what we're trying to follow it right now. We've not had a person actually appointed that for right now, Eric, 4 or 5 months, 6.
I would say conservatively 6.
And last time they just appointed somebody too, and they did part of the stuff. And I really hate to go down that road, knowing it's under me, and I don't have a good feeling it's being done correctly. It creates an uncomfortable level for me if I think it's not being done appropriately.
But here's the thing, I'm a big policy guy, because that's the quickest way for me to get you out of a lawsuit. It's not, do I remember what I did at that time? I can go back and say, this is how I always do it. So this is obviously how I did it. So if we don't get a policy going on this sooner rather than later, we're going to keep playing this putting the brightest fire out first, and it's going to come back to bite us.
Well, next month I have got to go out some of the websites, because we were looking at that earlier. Some of them more I'd like to say Williamson, but see if we can find some Title VI policy that's on their side. Me and him spend a little time evaluating and bring back to the community to look at. I think that'd be the first step before we even start, because right now we're starting budget season. We're generally frowned upon to ask for people in the middle of the year, so if all possible, it'd be something to wait for the next budget year.
I'm not frowning on it, it sounds like we have a need for it.
There's a need, but the question is, I think we need to look at the policy before we look at bringing in the FTE first. And if need be, we can temporarily, I guess, appoint somebody for the position, but my question is, they're not taking complaints and doing things as the position requires. That's what my concern is.
Well, so, that's a catch-22 there, though, is you want to bring in a good person to help create the policy, but then you want to create the policy to find the person you want. So I guess the decision to make is which way do you want to attack this?
So you go to policy first. I mean, that, organization's got to have a policy whether they got the people or not. I mean,
Don't adopt it, I guess.
right, well, no, I understand, but, I mean, you can't push a horse unless you've got a rider. I mean, you know, so you gotta get the policy first. Eric, question for you. Do we have a legal resource that we could use, or are there any policies that we could purchase that are kind of pressure tested, that versus just picking them off of different websites?
The only way I've been able to do this that's got any real-time benefit to it is to pick them from other counties that seem to know what they're doing. And that could even range from what department it is I'm trying to find some policy on. So that's how I've been attacking it. Whether there's a third-party outlet out there where you can purchase or have them help create a policy, I do not know.
And there's quite a bit of resources on the state website as far as I know. A lot of it leans heavily toward the grants and the vendors. The thing is, we also need to look and make sure how it's done that payroll. That's why when he started talking, it's mainly an HR function. We do collect some demographical information and do a few things. My question is, do we need to do more? Ms. Northley proposed doing some additional earlier, but we had some legal concerns of what she was proposing a couple months back. So, legal had concerns with them. So I think right now the best thing would be, we've got this for everybody to kind of digest, and then we can look on the website, we can actually call and find out, like in Williamson County, who's doing Title VI, what kind of policies they have, and just get like a short summary for the committee to look at. Probably.
So go back to your point. I mean, what's easier to defend in a lawsuit? That you have a policy, you haven't implemented it, or you haven't monitored it, or you don't have a policy at all?
Oh, if you know what you should have done, that's going to be worse.
That's where I'm going. I know the FTE's on a separate lane, I get that.
We got not having the policy, just to put it simply, is I complete ignorance then. But if I've got a policy, but I'm just not working within it, I'm setting myself up for trouble.
That's my big thing, is I think develop the policy and then figure what we need. As soon as you adopt the policy, we already have the boots on the ground to implement the policy. I think that's the safest move, and I think he said.
I don't know why you can't do that at all. Can't walk two guys at the same time. Can we develop a policy and be looking for a resource to implement it?
The problem is we need funding for that, and you'd have to advertise for a position.
Let's say that you get the funding in July, and let's have a policy in place by July 1. And then that way you can hit the ground running and say, hey, this is our policy, can you implement this? Can you monitor this?
If the committees will entertain that as a work in progress, knowing that if there is the employee need, I don't see a problem with that at all. My biggest hurdle's been expressing the fact that there was an employee need.
Yeah.
And it's kept pushing me towards having to create the whole policy to prove my point. So that puts us further behind on getting the thing up to speed. But it's however you all want to do it. I encourage attacking it from both ends.
Well, I think we've got to put it out there and work towards a goal here. And I would make a resolution that we, at July 1, we have a policy in place and vetted through this committee. And then get your money for the budget and move forward. But just to wait until we get a body to fund the policy, no, I don't think that's a wise move. So I'm making that resolution to say by July 1, we have a policy in place that's been vetted through this committee.
I'd like to just add, or amend to that, or sooner.
Thing is, we're in budget cycle.
Well, I mean, yeah, it's either you're an audit or you're a budget. I mean, so work's gotta get done regardless. But I think that gives us a goal, we get some funding, we get it vetted through this committee and other committees if we need to vet it through. But, I think that's reasonable, but you want to amend and try something sooner, I don't know.
As soon as possible. But we'll let that ride. All in favor? Aye. You vote on this.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. We'll be looking for a policy by July 1. And can I ask you on that?
Not just a policy, but a policy that's been vetted through this committee. I want us to say, I want it approved by July 1.
So it'll be on our agenda next time as an old item to discuss progress.
The next item is FMLA.
Can I ask you just on that though? I believe that in the committee structure this time around, it was in legislative that they knocked down the title. Was it legislative or was it
I think it
budget
went
last
to
time?
legislative and it was discussed of who was gonna do it.
And they said no.
Who did?
I thought legislative did.
What are we talking about again, the Title VI?
The Title VI person, because
Budget's where it got,
I don't remember in budget. I thought,
It's not made it to budget yet.
no, I believe I was sitting in the back of the room. I'm not at the legislative table. So I just need to know what we're gonna do to educate them on this need. And I don't understand why it went to legislative instead of budget.
Because
So
somebody needs to appoint or recommend a Title VI coordinator.
legislative, we have to create a position.
Somebody's gonna have to take the complaints and deal with other issues. And
Well, I know, but through the committee cycle, does it need to go to legislative again?
Not at this point, not until we're asking for somebody to be appointed. You've got to,
Okay,
one, we need a
That's my
position,
question.
a policy,
Thank
a position, and then an appointment.
okay, thank you.
so how are we gonna handle that until then? I guess that's the question.
That's the question we got right now. It's not been handled.
Do we keep kiting this until something presents itself, or?
Well, a moment ago, I recommended that we make Scott our Title VI coordinator until further notice. Because if we need, well,
That's all we can really do at this point.
then we go back to budget and we ask for a resource now. I'm good for that.
And that's what I was trying to say. We have a backlog and we got a list of stuff he's working on for projects right now.
Talk to,
Matt.
I mean, we have a need, we really have a need. And as Mr. Kerr said, the calendar moves and we're always busy.
Oh, yeah, that's true. I mean, that's the problem.
I think we have some legal risk that we've got to consider.
Yeah.
We're not doing anything.
Bring it back to budget next time.
We sat here in this committee and talked about it, we've got legal risk.
Yeah.
I think we'll need to motion that.
Okay. To send it to budget?
Yep.
Can do that. I think it's a normal process, but yes. All in favor of sending this item to budget to get resources as soon as possible is my motion. Can I get a second? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? You're abstaining? Okay. One abstention for,
No, I'm gonna say no.
okay. Do you have some, I mean, if we don't need to, please.
No, I just don't think it's necessary. I think it could be absorbed within the department. But that's just my position, but that's okay.
Well, we
Okay.
need to
Line is what I'm getting at.
Well, I was willing to transfer a position over to it.
Which department are we looking at?
Maybe we
Get
can
the
mayor's
name.
office.
Is it legal finance or is it
Could be
a
the mayor's office.
mayor's
Go
office?
to finance.
I don't know.
Finance does all HR.
Don't do HR, do payroll.
Where would we absorb that role if we don't create a new?
It's finance or legal.
Or mayor.
Yeah.
Or mayor. And do you have the legal bandwidth to do that?
But if we got it in common, where would you want it? It's kind of the question. Okay.
So from a selfish perspective, finance, from a practical aspect, I still would lean towards finance, but any cleanup or lawsuits, obviously, they're gonna end up in my lap.
That's about it.
That's mine is what we've been doing in the past versus now. We did what we did in the past. We're looking at, we don't think it's all been done.
Well, I think Mayor stated his case, and I think it's been wrong, but we got it approved, and I understand what you're doing.
The other one is something that needs to be looked at in the long term, the FMLA policy, because it's very interpreted and done differently across departments. You have, family medical leave, if you've been here a year, full-time, you're provided 12 weeks of basic job protection and insurance. We have some departments that will actually run out all their vacation sick and then do FMLA. Some will overlap, as the policy says, and then we find out. Some will try to do unpaid leave, but we just stop that, I believe, most of the time.
If we know, a lot of times we don't know.
But if you
Unless
look,
they're in Chronos, we don't see.
but if you look at your health insurance policy, it says you have to be actively working, so that means you need to be paid sick, vacation, or on FMLA. And it's consistent, so we run into issues of, because of tracking, that we don't know they're on FMLA, for the benefits, or we have people that are, so if it's a married couple, and you do it for the birth of a child, it's 12 weeks taken about.
So legally, this would be a nightmare to defend if we're applying the rules differently by department. Am I saying that correctly?
It's gonna be a problem internally.
I think you need to, my question is, a lot of these individual policies have all addressed FMLA, but it's under a federal law and involves benefits. The question is, can you have a countywide FMLA? All over the place. That's what we run into right now.
It is being done all over.
That's done all over.
In each department, they're responsible for their own, so it's how it's been up until now. So we recently ran into one where we're all employed by Sumner County government. And so those in one department might not know that they're married to somebody in another department. And so they both applied for 12 weeks. And we're like, well, they're actually both hired and employed by Sumner County, so you have to share that 12 weeks.
Wouldn't that be a normal function of HR, though, to know two employees are inside the organization that would double up on?
But we don't have HR, that's what we're running into.
But if you decentralize these policies, you're setting yourself up for failure.
We are decentralized.
Never have
Yeah.
HR.
But there's certain legal confines with this policy, I would think. It doesn't matter if you tweak it here or there, it's got to meet certain standards. So there's going to be part of that that's just, we have to do by department. And then it's the administration of it, and then to me, on top of it, the monitoring of what we do and from legal risk or legal cases that come up. But to go out and do FMLA for each department separately, I just don't know if that's smart.
That's been on for years.
If they are under Chronos, being monitored that way, but they're, say, an elected official's office. Now, you're saying this is going to be a different policy.
They have different FMLA policies.
Even though they're under Chronos.
Yeah, they have a personnel policy. The question is, should there be one FMLA policy with that part of your personnel policy? And then, like we have the county main policy, and some of them are interpreting it different than the others are too. Like, does the sick and vacation overlap, which reads that way, or do you get 12 more weeks unpaid afterwards? And then the worst one is they're not on Chronos is tracking intermittently. We're having somebody to do it would be a full time. But the thing we're running into is we're a large county, and we're talking absorbing here, but if you look at the size of most counties, when they have HR departments, they have several staff members that don't exist here. It's a big cost, so it needs to be dealt with one way or the other. It needs to be tracked and straightened out every time. So what's happened over the last several years, we've got larger and larger, so these problems have got larger and larger.
So you're saying in an ideal world, you would, if you had bodies, you would make it one policy and enforce it. But you're saying because we don't have the head count to do that, it takes strokes off of your daily work and adds it to the manager of that particular group or elected official to make that decision. I'm okay with it personally. I want something in place that covers Eric, and from a legal perspective, we're doing nothing. That's not a good thing. If there are things in that policy or that law, Eric, that these are must. Everybody has to follow these 5 principles, and then you manage it internally as long as you meet these 5 principles. I'll say 5. It could be 10. It could be 2. I don't know. But we need a to me, we need a nucleus, and then you go out from there. But ideally, I'd like to put everybody under one, but we are not going to be able to get the head count to do that. And I still understand why that would be an additional head count to do that, but we can talk about that offline.
Generally, it's done by somebody in HR that is a full-time person.
Yeah.
There's no HR here, so.
Well, one, you're talking about development of a policy that covers everybody. And it would be developed by legal and hopefully approved by this committee or whomever. Then you would go to your managers and say, or elected officials, this is our new FMLA policy. Please put the procedures in place to comply. I don't know how that adds body count to an HR group.
That won't, but if you're tracking doing it correctly, you know,
well, you're talking about the back end. You're talking about tracking. I'm talking about implementation.
Thing is, we get people down here on health insurance and so on, and pay where they on. That's where we're running into in benefits, and then suddenly starts dragging out. We find out, oh, this person has not been here for 4 weeks, and they've, been on health insurance.
Or if, I guess some of the things that we've run into is, I don't know who is holding these directors accountable. We've had a few employees contact us saying, oh yeah, they gave me this FMLA paperwork to fill out, and then Amy, who's our benefits girl, so look, and she said, you haven't even been here a year, you don't get it. But yet this director gave them paperwork, so.
Let me offer this up. I don't want to get hung up on this a little bit.
Yeah,
we have to.
Yeah, this isn't simply just one thing. You've got OJI, you've got overtime, you've got whether you're exempt or non-exempt. It's a list of stuff.
Yeah, let me do this. I want to lean on your expertise to tell this committee what are the basic legal parameters that need to exist inside that policy.
And we're talking about FMLA.
FMLA, right. And let's still, push to the 7-1 deadline. But this is going to be vetted out as we go down the path. It's not Kronos that's been vetted out. So this would be no different. But I don't know if we'll solve that today. I've got my own opinion. I can be swayed either way. But I'm just trying to get the thought out there. Let's move it forward instead of just talking about it. Let's do it. So I'll start my questioning about it. At this point, I think we've got it in the resolution that's been passed.
Can I ask the Mayor,
Yes, ma'am.
with the FMLA, can you see any path forward that we could be centralized and take that in one spot and have, it's a big knowledge bank, I understand.
Yeah, it would require a person, I'm sure.
Do you think it would?
I think that's what finance is alluding to, that they would need somebody. Yeah, but we could have a policy that's countywide. I don't think that would be a problem.
Would that be, with the department head, with the different elected officials, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I don't think the elected officials would have a problem with the policy. Now, I would have to speak to them, but I can venture a guess that not many of them are well-versed in that policy, and they would love the guidance to make sure that they're operating within their parameters, so.
Yeah. So if we could address that first, if we could see a way forward to centralize our policy, to put FMLA in one spot.
Sure. I'll talk to you.
We all know where we're going to dump it at.
Problem we ended up with, and that's one I tell you about, what she mentioned, because we actually had somebody put somebody in FMLA that wasn't qualified.
I understand.
Keep them on health, and then we end up with the issue they're not technically qualified for health insurance, so it puts us in the spot of having to figure out.
I find out until after the fact.
I understand. That's why, once we get it centralized, we'll get the policy tighter and can bring all of those questions together and then address getting the right resource in place and move forward. If you could get back to us.
Be happy to the next month.
And then see if you could work, if legal and the mayor, if everybody could come up with a simple policy that they're happy with, and we could vet it and move forward, that would be ideal.
I'll be happy to review and share with the constitutional officers.
All right. I don't think that needs a motion. We're just going to have it on old business.
And that is the end of my report.
We move to old business. And you'll have to pardon me since I was not present last month, so I want to make sure that I don't skip some stuff. Information for employees who pay current.
Before credit.
Yes. Is he having to leave?
He's just using the restroom.
Okay,
If he
yeah.
comes back,
Yeah, we'll get him in and get him out. So when he comes back, we'll make a motion to move him up. Item A, in the meantime, information for employees who pay current.
Updated information. That's the updated numbers. The first number, if you look on page 120, is the exempt, including everybody, exempt and everybody. If you made up for that week at current, 1 week's about 305,000. If you remove the exempt department heads, 278. If you remove all exempt employees from it, it'd be 277.
This issue has been, if I may speak to this issue's been here floating around. I'd like to just take a piece of this. I'd like to make a motion today that we stop paying people before they work their hours and go ahead and move their pay to after they've worked their hours, if that makes sense.
There'll be a 1 week of gap on pay and about 100 and some people.
So moving from Thursday to Monday, because right now we pay on Thursday, and they still work, for some people, they're still working Thursday and Friday.
It'd still be an estimate, yeah.
So I'd like to make the motion that we don't pay people before they've worked their hours.
You've got to be really clear on that because it's stuff like sheriff, EMA, highway, they already have holdbacks.
So they work their hours, they stay where they're at.
And then the other ones, so if you move everybody to, say, Monday, then you're going to move the sheriff's department, highway, and all
Because
that.
theirs are set on there.
And I can kind of read you where everybody's paid. Let's just,
Yeah.
for example, let's use June 30th. Your last payroll is June 19th of 2025, okay? On June 19th, 25, all your part-time will be actually paid in arrears. In other words, none of those are paid in advance. Your elected officials are paid on June 19th through June 30th. The county commission is paid, which are elected, but not county-wide. They're paid on June 19th through June 30th. EMS, sheriff, highway, health, and ECC all have a holdback, somewhere near a week, give or take. The general policy is going to be paid, this group is paid on June 19th for all their hours full-time through June 20th, the following day. Includes planning, county attorney, elections, buildings, mayor, county buildings employees, IT, finance, library, civil, veterans, archives, some of the courts, assessors, magistrates, probation, EMA, and D911.
So
The trustees pay on the 19th through the 22nd, and they have separate policies, but the deed, circuit, and clerk and master is also the same way. They're paid on the 19th.
So with that, let me interrupt you because we get that everybody is paid on a different work schedule.
Right.
Is there some way that, and I know that we've talked about this, and you say once we get it set up in the system, it just rolls. Can we not come up with a more standard week pay cycle than having 20 different pay cycles? Without disrupting everybody.
They've all got it by personnel policies, so you're going to have to deal with overtime and reset their weeks.
It's a big thing having 20 different pay
Yeah, tell me
cycles.
about it.
Yep.
If we could, while we're talking about trying to centralize FMLA, if we could get together and just make our pay cycles the same. I understand that and we're going to talk about the sheriff's office and EMS and their schedules in a moment with Kronos, but if we could, maybe we can't move those down to 1 week, but if we could move it down to 3 different pay cycles and then address what's going on. Is that possible? Again, it would be at the will of the elected officials, but we've got, as he was reciting, 20 different pay cycles.
Mm-hmm. I'll be happy to discuss it with David, because I'm not aware of the different pay cycles, so I would have to be educated on it myself.
I was shocked. I'll just tell you, I looked at it a couple of months ago and I was shocked.
Yeah. I'll be happy to talk to David, and maybe we can well, to be honest, I would probably, and I think David might agree with me on this, if we punt on this until after budget. I think and then David and I can sit down and talk about these pay cycles. But I'd venture a guess that David's pretty swamped right now trying to get budget stuff. So I hate to throw a project on.
That and the holdbacks, we can throw those in the next year because when we start talking about the Kronos bids, I think there's a work on the ones that already have the holdback first. Because it'll take a while to get you in the next year. Go ahead and tackle this in the middle of the budget cycle.
I was under the impression that we'd already moved some people to that.
It went to budget, and then they discussed it, sent it back here to determine which way to go, and it never was determined. It went from here to budget, and budget back here. And Cable and that one. Well, it's in a matter of fact, for more work.
All right, so I would like to see a reduction of payment schedules. So I'm willing to wait, and nothing's happening. Kronos is not moving. And what we're going to hear in just a moment when we hear from the sheriff, you'll see that Kronos may be taking another step backwards, maybe. All right, so a motion to keep the payback and current employees on old business.
You don't need to.
Just leave it there. Got it. All right. Email from Mr. Long.
That's the same thing as in relation to the
Right.
whole act.
We don't, get the sheriff to come and do anything.
Yeah, actually, and because we want to hear from him before we go back to item C also. So, Sheriff Craddock, come and join us. If you would, sir. Can I have a motion to suspend to allow Sheriff Craddock to speak?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
This E2,
Yeah. This is E2. We have Kronos bids recommended to move forward, but first I'd like you to hear from Sheriff Craddock and some of the complexities they're encountering with Kronos.
Sorry, I got something in my word on the last call. Kronos is adequate. It does what we've made it to do. Once I heard that financial management wanted to hear from us on Kronos and implementation, I started going to some other law enforcement agencies around and seeing how they did. When I went to Hendersonville and watched how they use power time, and I'm not exaggerating when I say this, I was standing on the side of the road talking to the sergeant, and pulled it up on his phone, showed me exactly how they do it, and I thought, that's the ticket. How do we get that? So then we got and sat down in a demo with Power Time. Power Time's parent company is Neola. They have government software. We already use it at the sheriff's office for several other things, our policy management, our FTO training. There's a couple other models I'd like to have. We just aren't money for right now. Power Time costs about $10,000 a year to start up. I asked a question on the back end. They have a bridge or an API or an interface, however you want to call it, with UKG or Kronos, whichever is the new parent company. So we could literally go from Power Time into Kronos. That would keep it centralized in the finance department. It would make it much easier from a user perspective. We would have more control over it from the sheriff's office perspective. I told you all Kronos is working on that. Power Time is definitely a step up from a law enforcement perspective. It's a software made for emergency services, made for 24-hour shifts, made for multiple different shifts within the same organization. I have 8, they have 12s, have divisions that want to go to 12 in the new budget year, and Annette can tell you, I'm probably the biggest thorn on her side because when time doesn't work, I just pick up a phone call, hey, can you help me with this? And she's speaking one language, I'm speaking another language because I'm confident she's, you know what I mean? I do think it would be much simpler if the departments could pick the software that works for them and make sure we have an API or an interface that made it work for her versus trying to make Kronos fit across the board. Kronos is great. My wife uses it apparently. She doesn't have any of the problems that our users have. So if we could make the software that work for us and increase efficiency and decrease all the user complaints that I have. This is not a joke. Every other Monday morning, I text my staff, happy Monday, Kronos, and the ground's just rolling. We spend, and Annette knows, we spend most of payroll Mondays dealing with payroll issues. That's not what we're talking about. You spoke to the other side. I said the technology you're talking about. Is it actually you use your iPhone and do the thing? You can use your iPhone with Kronos. The problem that we're running into now is multi-factor authentication that Kronos requires. That's not a Sumner County issue. That's a UKG is the new parent company, right? It's a UKG issue. So that's not something we can fix here. But PowerTime takes your biometrics from your face or your passcode, your iPhone, and then you're logged into PowerTime and has your multi-factor authentication, just like every other 22nd century mobile app, right? So it's definitely more efficient and more user-friendly. Because I'll tell you, I'm not the Chronos expert. And that'll tell you, I'm not the Chronos expert. But I had my captain and my lieutenant who are very well versed in it, sitting in the demo with PowerTime. And when they walked out of there, they're like, wow, that's what we need. That works for us. It's not a solution we're making work for the sheriff's office. It's a solution that literally works for the sheriff's office.
How much time do you think your department spends working through Chronos every month?
Well, it's Mondays, it's the Thursday before payroll. We have her go through and send out discrepancies with time cards. Because if she does on Thursday, they work either Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's a lot.
You'd still have discrepancies you gotta work through regardless of whether you use Chronos or PowerTime, but just, is it labor intensive on Chronos from a user perspective?
From my perspective, it is labor intensive.
You have to be in front of a laptop or your iPad to do it, or can you do it on your phone? Or?
You can do it from your phone or your laptop. Our problem most of the time is that people like to use their phone because of our security settings to use Citrix and go in it. So obviously on your phone, it's not like a tablet, the screen's a little smaller. You know, I do it from my phone most of the time, but I'm paper scheduled. The people that force me to paper schedule, so it's pretty easy to approve. I don't have to do all the manipulation that the other supervisors have to do.
And if I could step into one piece that, when we were discussing this earlier, the scheduling piece, could you use that for scheduling? And I'd like to loop that into where we've talked about EMS using their software. Is this the same? What I'd like to ideally see is if we could use the same software. I know that Sheriff Craddock is saying everybody could have whatever fits them the best, but if we could have a scheduling software that fits the multi-different shifts.
We've already, Chronos has one, and so there's an advanced one that EMS has right now.
So could whatever EMS, I know that there's a module that we talked. Telestaff. Is Telestaff something they could use? The sheriff's office?
You don't have
It's gonna be
Extra cost.
It's extra cost, it's gonna be configured.
how much?
I don't know. I wasn't part of the telecast.
I can tell you that I've gotten the quote from PowerTime. It's about $6,500 starting and about $4,500 recurring for the sheriff's office.
Because to me, it sounds
That
like
includes the scheduling line.
they
Handle
need,
maintenance requests and those things.
And Power FT or Power Ready, Power DMS, we communicate with them a lot. In the past year, I've had one issue that took them about a month to fix. Not a huge issue, but, and honestly, we were trying to use their software for something like a design for, but it was cheaper for us to make it work, and they fixed it this week. So their customer service has been really good.
so to me, it sounds like that they need something like Telestaff is doing for EMS. But ideally, if we could use the same product, that would be a win, I think.
What said it belonged to UKG?
PowerTime, no, PowerTime belongs to me. And they got a scheduling module built into it, which our guys right now are doing Chronos, and they have a Google Sheet that they schedule people off and on, holidays, PTO, and all that kind of stuff. So having it all incorporated into one would be more efficient.
Do you know why they don't use Chronos for their schedule?
I think when the consultants came and we started Chronos for scheduling, she told us it would be too difficult the way we did it. Don't quote me on that. That was when we did it at the Board of Education, the training in the classroom.
That was way before me.
Yes.
That was my people did that. Yeah.
I'm quite certain. And
Sorry if they don't
we're
realize.
still going for an 8.5 as well, so. Yeah, I have no idea Chronos could do scheduling.
What do you think your transition time would be between Chronos and PowerTime if you use that movie? Would it be relatively seamless, or do you think?
I think it would be relatively seamless. I think the biggest issue would be building a sandbox for them to play in to make sure the integration between PowerTime and UKG was seamless.
Change management.
Right. I don't want to set it up, and we still have to do the spreadsheet that uploads into, I want it to be a seamless process for everybody.
The reason for the spreadsheet right now is it requires a sign-off or approval, and a sign-off or approval from the employee and the department head.
Yeah.
And they have like guest punches, and they put the issue going right now. I'd like to see how power time, if they don't punch out or don't get approval.
Well, I'm just curious how power time, what information it's sending to Kronos. Kronos is still gonna have your payrolls and whatever to handle those hours.
The mispronunciation stuff is one of the main reasons I've asked to go paper schedule. The time clocks are extremely expensive, and I use this example all the time. It's the most real example I've got. Corrections officers walking in the jail, standing at the time clock. A call comes over the radio for a fight in the jail pod. Well, they're not standing there going to clock in. They're running to the fight. So if we just put them all on paper schedule, and anytime their time needs to be modified, they would send a request to a supervisor like our patrol officers do. I think the missed time punches errors go down. Exponentially.
That was one question the sheriff department before your time, they wanted the time clock that the chief.
Where I was going with my question about saving time and something too, like, and if you had a way to document the saving of time into the cost, then having a carve out for your group, EMS, others, is, something I think we could say. And maybe you've got the 6,500 sitting in the budget, or 10 grand, whatever, 5 grand to do that now. But, I like what you're talking about. We have to be open-minded about Kronos. I've dealt with Kronos for 30, 40 years. It can be good, it can be bad. Having a carve out for the sheriff's department. But, other areas like your finance, or your payroll, your planning, your whatever. To me, I don't know if you'd find another carve out that just has folks in finance or this to me seems like it's fairly unique and fairly successful way to do that because of the instability of your schedules and back and forth. I think we should strongly consider it.
I've got two questions. First is, Eric, from a legal standpoint, sounds like he's going to be totally meeting all the we need from the 2012 Financial Act, because it's all going in Kronos, right? So there's no.
Does it have to go to the subcommittee?
I don't believe that act ever
says
how it has to
has
be
to
there. It
be
just has to
standard.
be there.
Well, I think would this violate the?
I don't know wording how could someone read that section? Because I think that section says that finance has to be decentralized.
That's what I mean.
That was my question.
It's on the front, it's on the definition. It's very front, says there's one time keeping system.
Well, if it integrates into Kronos, it, to me, is standardized, right?
The question is going to be the same thing. You're going to have, the issue we've got right now is whatever we upload is what it's going to pay. So when we get in there, if somebody missed the punch, not changed the punch, or if there are changes in time, we can't upload it. So if you got a system going into a system, you just create another web page.
So you're talking about the actual implementing of the technology. I think we're talking about the principle of being able to.
We're talking about the actual
act, and I think the act would not prohibit you from doing this. We're talking about the back end of making it work.
If it's feeding into a timekeeping system from a front interface, then it's one timekeeping system. That's my question. I'm not sure if this is an interface or a full-on timekeeping system. I don't know. These things feed it back into Kronos, which is a timekeeping system, and if you're going to have a timekeeping feeding into a timekeeping feeding into a payroll, you're going to end up with a whole other level of problems.
So this is just
You create a lot of new problems.
fancy spreadsheet in my mind that's organizing it
Which one?
to feed into the system. Power time,
Which is, essentially what.
I'd be curious what they're sending to Kronos, like what they're
I'll-
like, because like
I'll
some
ask.
staff.
you said you could run you could run in parallel.
I think so. And
Yeah.
that's
So we can
what
run
I
2
was-
months and see.
Yes.
You have to match up, this say 80% of the time.
Tell us that feed stuff too right now, that's one of the issues.
Well, I mean,
So that was question one, it seems like across that earlier question too. As long as you've got money within your budget as a department head, I think you can just go do it, right? Is that?
my point is,
They don't violate the act, I don't know.
before you get too far down the road, we want to make sure that what Kronos requires, otherwise you're still going to have problems with Kronos.
So we
With
have
your-
that very
With
specific
your implementation and your pay rules and all of
And
that.
I'm happy to get
Okay.
with you and see if we can get on a demo and make sure
Yeah.
before we.
Could we do like at least 3 months of parallel path.
I'm sure we would have to
At that point, we
pay
would
for
probably.
refunds.
My thing is to do it, but just seem like a timekeeping system and just getting all the punches and stuff resolved. And what's Chrono do? Just take it, not just from you guys, it's all resolved.
And that's why I'm
The other
curious.
system apply, what did you?
I'm trying to figure out, you don't want to, you got to manage your policies there, right?
That's what we just.
I could have to organize the
So
time.
you're gonna manage policies and then, well, I mean.
Like, Power Time doesn't say they make $10 an hour, Kronos does.
No, Munis says that.
Munis does that.
Munis will take that
So,
out and we'll follow the rate.
Are like the pay policies and stuff in
There's
that
pay
timekeeping
policies.
system? Or is that timekeeping system just strictly,
I
they
don't-
work from 10 to 10, you know what I mean?
I don't have that.
And I'm asking all this because telestaff, even though it is under that umbrella, you still have to set up Kronos to be able to take that information, and Kronos holds your payrolls, and that's the biggest issue that I have in the sheriff office. They have so many different payrolls and accruals and all of that, and they're always trying to improve things, which causes us more work. So I'm not,
Commissioner Brown's been patient.
I'm gonna try to read it and maybe what it says.
Can you let Mr. Brown go
One
first?
question here. Does this interface individually with Kronos, or does it go back to a batch under the sheriff's department, and then it dumps into Kronos?
From my understanding, it interfaces with UKG.
Individually or as a batch?
What do you mean?
Well, I'm saying each individual person doing their own time sheet, or does,
It would send the entire.
okay, so it goes back as a batch under the sheriff's department. Now, you were saying that if one was held out, that it would stop that dump into Kronos? Like somebody hadn't done their time sheet?
Somebody had done the time sheet.
It would stop the batch process?
I would assume so. How could you do a batch if one of them wasn't?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I think I can answer your question pretty closely.
Earning records, and this is just the definition, means detailed records for all time work, leave taken, and all balances maintained on a real-time basis exclusively by comprehensive time and attendance system, which shall be used by all agencies of the county. The application must be fully integrated into the ERP, and that's what we're trying to do right now, and automated to the most extent possibly in a 5 ways an hour. So, if it dumps all the detailed hours worth, the leave and everything, by detail back into Kronos, and you're still gonna have a consolidated system. The question is, are we going to create, by trying to fix the problem versus, remove the time clock over here, and are we gonna create a second layer that creates more problems, or are we just gonna get a better interface? I don't know.
I just think
We need a good interface and fix the whole.
we have to take out some parts of it, I believe, because how many years have we been not implementing Kronos? 12 years? Well, and if.
It sounds like a cheap, quick thing.
It goes to a lot of different things. It goes to efficiency, goes to crowd, goes to a lot of different things. If your folks like it and it works, you have spent less time trying to deal with the complaints, then you're doing more work.
I think it is spend more time dealing with my complaints than anybody.
Well, I mean, I would think it will make my life easier, subsequently make it hurt.
I wish I had more of me to go around so that I could see what exact problems that they're having, because I feel like maybe they just need to be retrained.
Well, and yes and no, right? From a theory standpoint, 100%. I hear what you're saying.
Yeah.
But from an application standpoint, these guys are boots on the ground, cops and corrections officers.
Right.
They need a system that is stupid easy, so easy, they don't need to be retrained.
And especially if they're paid from schedule, if we're allowed to sit there and paid from schedule, I don't know what they're spending all their time doing in the time cards, I guess.
100%, which is why, like,
Yes. Yes.
when can we get this done?
Yes.
That's something, he's wanting to move all his employees paid for the schedule, which I understand your jailers and patrol, but he's talking office staff too.
I want everybody, I don't want to have to deal with a time clock issue again, especially after I was told that replacement time clock had to come out of my budget at $3,500.
He told you that.
I'm pretty sure it was like that last time, because I asked for more time cards.
It must have been IT.
It might have been IT. I asked for more time cards, I was told those had to come out of my budget. No more time clocks, and I was told those had to come out of my budget. So,
Sound clocks historically had a line item for ERP equipment.
Can we do this, just to kind of move this forward, I think we should think outside the box and consider, you using this technology, I think we should understand, does it interface, and what are the mechanics to interface that software into Chronos, so it does meet kind of the definition of the 2012 Act, which I think we might be overreading it a little bit, but my guess is it would. And then come back maybe the next meeting and tell us how you propose we move forward on this in terms of, is there a cost to do what Colin said, that 2 or 3 month, right, side by side parallel, what that cost would be? And if you've got it in your budget, that's fine, just articulate to our committee what that is. And let's look at a schedule, try to get it done. That's what I would propose.
Sure.
Could we do paper schedule and try that for a month before we go through? Because I do feel like that's gonna help my issues. I know you're one person, I know.
That's kind of on the next one.
I mean, if I could magically do it, then I would say yes, as long as they all approve that you're allowed to do that. But I don't have my consultants in place yet, and we've got budget, and a lot of crap going on.
So I have a question though, back to, I alluded to it earlier, that EMS has to tell us that. If you could both use, and it sounds like they're using some, this pay per schedule, this is the first time I've heard, it sounds, I'm neither opposed. Yeah, so, but it sounds like that's what EMS is doing over on Telestaff. They're not.
No.
I thought their schedule rolled into the pay.
It does, but they have 24-hour rotating shifts, and when somebody misses, they've got to call out and 5 people on the shifts and overlap them. The only reason they have Telestaff is that they got 24 hours overlapping shifts on this.
Okay, so their
Nobody
shifts
else
are
uses
different.
it usually.
So they couldn't be, the sheriff's office and EMS could not use the same
If you want to pay for the
scheduling
seats.
interfaces.
If you want to pay for the seats, you're going to probably run several $100,000 to set it up.
Telestaff is expensive.
Yes, and you're going to run the monthly cost on it too, yeah. That's why we didn't set it up for everybody. Now, they do have a scheduling module in the sheriff's department, and that's one they could probably look at versus the sheets. I think at the time, because I was here back when we had this, we had an old system that was being, the sheriff's department was being demoed. They kept using it, all the lead balances got. Was you here when we did the lead balances? Yeah, they got totally messed up, so we used the most conservative, probably gave people balances, so they said. We came in and moved them over to Chronos because it suddenly was dying. So at the time, we may have said it's a rush to do it, and we didn't want, I don't know who told us not to use the scheduling module. But that may have been the reasoning at the time, because the system was dying. I think they called us one day and said your system was dying. It's a 4-year time, so we were like,
That was BE.
so we were like, our system's dying, we don't know what to do, we've got like 2 weeks, when's this gonna be, so what we did is we grabbed sheriff first, and just started funneling, was you here when we started that? I think you were, funneling all these lead balances in. I think you were the one doing it.
So that's not gonna help us.
They had all the lead balances from the old system.
The old system history isn't gonna help us.
No, but that's why.
The only reason I'm suggesting that we do the same system is because in the past we've heard that our Telestaff trained person left, and we have training issues to get back up to speed to run that. So from finance's point of view, if my finance person only had to know one interface system, that might be worth paying for. That's the reason I was trying to move both of you either one way or the other, and theirs isn't working right now. So if they could use power time and it was cheaper.
Have to reconfigure all Chronos.
Well, it's not working anyways, according to 2 months ago, and the guy that programmed it wrong and has left the building. I think that's what I recall.
But it's not the Telestaff side, it's the Chronos side that is wrong, EMS. It is not set up.
It's the Chronos side, the parameters.
Yes.
I understand now. That's the only reason I was trying to shove you both towards the same software.
I'm happy to try it. Whatever.
So, can y'all like,
Telestaff.
I know everybody's got plenty of time, we've heard that. So, if y'all could just figure out if you know, what these two systems offer, and if that might be a thing.
Right.
I don't want you to have to know both.
Well,
Or
I guess
financially, give us some numbers. And then I need time to think about the paper schedule. It sounds like a great thing, but I'm sure there's some con to it, but I don't want to talk about that today.
You've been asking for a while, and I've asked David multiple times. We just haven't.
We haven't found another time.
Yeah.
So can we put that and give us all time to research that?
Sure. I got plenty of time.
I mean, you're not gonna get anywhere this week anyways, but could you come back with like some costs? And if it will.
Cost for power time and the interface for
The cost, yeah. And then if it will upload.
Yeah, and if it's gonna cause Chronos to need to be updated some way.
If it's possible, how much it'll cost, and can you be friends with EMS? That's my request, and in the meantime, I'll figure out paper.
And I'll call Lynette and see when she has time to sit in a demo with me, that way we're on the same.
Yeah, and I want to throw out there, Chronos, they've had so many updates since we originally went live. And I don't keep up with all of them, I just can't. But with these consultants that we have that we're gonna bring in, I know that they've updated and upgraded their scheduling system in general. I've never seen that I don't know exactly what it can do, but I feel like with consultants coming in, different consultants, they may be able to ease your burden that you have now without the additional, but I can't guarantee that. I just really, it's simple. So that makes, it really is, from the end user standpoint, if it's set up correctly. And so.
The other question on power time is how are we going to get sign-offs on time sheets? That's a big one for me.
Well, that's still gonna have to come from.
That's a wage an hour, that's the same thing, wage an hour. If somebody comes in and audits your office, they're gonna go through those crimes, they're gonna look for sign-offs. That's what we're working on right now to get everybody to do all their approvals. I don't know.
Does the power time, does that have like the time card and everything? Like you guys would be approving time cards? Okay.
So it wouldn't come across without an approval?
One thing, when you come back to cost and your thoughts on how it works, think about the staff's time, how much time, and then how you say, or do you have any questions on that's just to have.
I wanted to know. Let me ask you. So with this item, and this goes back to probably legal and the way the Financial Act said, does this have to go through the sub-policy committee or this decision on the interface and stuff? Does this have to go to the sub-policy committee or can it stay here?
Well, the first decision is, do we interpret that it violates the Chronos setup policy? If it doesn't, then you keep on trucking.
We can keep it at this table and not, okay.
If it passes all the information, I don't believe it does.
And to me, what I see, if I was arguing this point, what he's proposing is duplicative. It's merely a second set of the same information. So as long as it ends up in Chronos, I think you're fine.
And the only reason I asked that was I was going to, when we got to the Elected Officials Association, I was going to recommend if they needed a different member or if they needed the minutes and stuff that we would put the sheriff's office or EMS on there to address this issue. That's okay, but we don't need to.
And he's already said it costs $11,000, so if it saves a full man or a full woman job, that's one more person that, and to be completely honest with Mike,
You said that was the start of it. It was 4,500 after.
4,500 a year after that.
Yeah.
That 11
Year after that.
Right, so it's a recurring cost every year, just like every other software, and then there's the one-time setup fee.
My family and I did a tour of the jail a couple of weeks ago, and just want to compliment on how fantastic the leadership is there. And it was shocking how understaffed things were. So we need people not doing paperwork. We need people doing all the value-added stuff. I think there was one guy manning all of the doors at the jail. And there's like 2 or 3 seats that should be filled. So I mean, these are real trade-offs and teams that you guys are making. So if this frees up even one person, that's somebody else.
Let's be real about how this works. You got one person that's upset about Chronos footage and they're texting it for free. So it just creates a productivity issue. I mean, not that this would be the absolute perfect thing, but it moves you in that direction. Right. Yeah.
So we look forward to talking with you more next month on these items. If we could move forward, the mayor needs to leave at 4:30.
Sure.
So if you have anything else to add right now, we'll talk more next month. All right, thank you.
You don't want him to stick around?
Yeah, I'd like for him to, but I'd like to give the mayor an opportunity. We have some other items here. I'm not sure, you asked me which ones that,
The purchase order exceptions.
all right, I'd like to.
You get to that.
Yeah. Can I ask you, before we jump down there, can we go to, without objection, old item C for requested minutes of the elected officials?
Yeah, we haven't met. We'll see if we can get a meeting.
Because we're looking at having a subcommittee meeting.
Yeah.
And we don't have any minutes for that fifth member.
Yeah, let me talk to the elected officials and see if we can get a meeting together here pretty quick.
All right, and just in case this item has to go to the sub-policy committee, I'd like to consider a fifth member coming from either EMS or the sheriff's office to discuss this issue, if y'all would consider that.
Sure.
So we'll go ahead and consider item C discussed. So jumping down to new business, sorry for all the jumping, purchase and bid issues.
Let me go through them real quick.
Yes, sir.
On page 174 is your list of purchasing and bid issues. The first one, item 20, is the new one, and that's the Gallatin Department of Electricity. That's the one for the work done at the courthouse, and there wasn't a PO obtained between all the transitions, but when you read the policy on page number 3, it allows me to grant exceptions for something I consider legitimate other than just plain failure, and because it is a quasi-governmental agency, I considered it a governmental agency, so that's one that I granted. Item 23, I know I'm skipping, failure to obtain one because the mayor had an agreement with the church. They were to pay something, a reimbursement. The church asked us to pay directly, and the work had already been done, to get along with the church or to work with them. We just went ahead and did it, but it's the same thing on page number 3 allows me to grant exceptions.
What was it?
It was for some work. They were working on the courthouse, and there was an awning that was in the way of construction, so the county agreed to remove the awning for $8,100, and the mayor signed the agreement for them to pay it and work, and we just reimbursed them, which wouldn't require a PO. They asked us to pay it to the vendor directly, and it's really just kind of it for that. So I granted him an exception on the PO because his belief was that they were going to pay it. And then item 21 and 22 was 2 items where there was just a failure to obtain a PO, and the mayor does have corrective action sheets in there for both of them. The employee is no longer here. But I'm asking to grant exceptions for number 21 and 22.
Move to group and approve 21 and 22.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Then can I discuss item 2 a little bit? Because it's also, Veterans Park, the mayor was discussing with Veterans Park, the money is budgeted for work to be done out here before, the mayor didn't authorize it. They went ahead and proceeded with the work before a PO or anything was obtained. They did the work themselves. Since it is federal money, it is required to follow the rules for ARPA. It's considered a small purchase. It's under $10,000, so the work would not require 3 quotes or anything, but it should have required a PO. So since they didn't do that at this committee, we'll grant an exception, and we put it in the minutes clearly. We can go ahead and obtain invoices from those folks and reimburse them if this committee would approve that to comply with 200 CFR. If you guys approve the exception, we can move forward.
What's the value? I mean, is it all on the side of that?
It's over here on pages 205 to 215. The total work estimated or included is?
Total work was around $8,396.55. And then the Hendersonville City gave a grant of $2,500. That left a balance of $5896.55. And then the county agreed to pay $5,000 towards it. And unfortunately, or not unfortunately, they just don't know the system. And they went out and they were just, eager to get the work done and asked us to reimburse it. So, but I did talk to them about, hey, if you want something done, you bring a plan to me of what you want done, and then I present that for a funding opportunity.
I'll make a motion. It's on page 209, the actual details. And I just request that you guys approve the exception, and the one caveat is that they provide all the detailed invoices. We've got most of them. We just need a few more.
I'll second that. All in favor? Any opposed? And just a side note, is all the work completed?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it's completed. I'll have to get with them and ask them.
Thank you.
Need anything else from me?
You may want to chime in on this discussion, I don't know, but nothing
Okay.
that directly to you.
I'll sit around for a few more minutes.
So we head right back up to old business, item B, list of grants and projects. I believe that's where we're at.
We are working on that, but I have this Browning sheet included in an email right now. Between all the projects we're doing, that one's just nowhere near completed.
Do we know if we have any grants that we haven't acted on that we should?
No, this is just review stuff in the system of review, kind of wanted an idea of the dollar amount that that's going to require.
So those that, we're not leaving any money in the table?
No. We've got a good monitoring system on all that stuff.
This is just paper?
Yeah, this is basically the way the project structure works, and kind of the same thing we're saying, we're doing the most pressing projects, and that's why we really need another accountant to work on some of this stuff.
Can we get at least, we can come back next month, it'll be the same answer. I'm not putting the answer down, I know that's the answer on the table, but we're not gonna get an answer until July or August because of budget.
Right. Right now, we're working on it, but the thing is, we're working on other projects too that are quite pressing. And one of them's now the Title VI, so.
This is just, I would propose that we update budget on how many items are being pushed into no man's land over and over again.
I mean, that's kind of what we shift when we get a new project or request. We work overtime as much as we can, extra hours, and we shift projects.
So, I make a motion that we move to the budget agenda for next month, a discussion on how far behind finance is on fulfilling the request of this committee.
Well, that's, like right now, the one we've moved people to is the one, we need to do the election commission.
Yeah, that's all fine. I would just like to make the motion that we bring this to budget and we take the time to walk through all the outstanding items to request resources. Because we're not getting, we have committees, we have budget committee that can't get item reports they need, we have this committee that can't get reports they need. The, election office.
That's what we're working on for next
Right, I know, but it was a resource and we're pulling you off a budget.
And
So my motion is that we send a request to budget that they entertain the list of items that's being pushed off and consider resources before budget.
So right now, I've allocated somebody over on the election. And
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Can we finish discussing the one? We have allocated resources for this over there right now, working on it.
All I'm asking is for budget to go through the list of items that we're behind and consider applying more resources. If you can't use the resources.
The problem we've also, and this is the one we're trying to discuss, anytime we bring a resource in, there's a lag between training and getting them up. If we bring in full-blown accountants, they don't know the system, they don't know the time. It's the same issue we've got right now, we can only move so quickly. So right now, what I say, we have allocated people toward the election commission benchmarking. There was a request for the, Monday, discussing school revenue, there's this request for, the maintenance of effort for several years, and then we're also in the middle of our arbitrary rebate calculations. So those are allocations.
I'll withdraw my motion. I'll talk to Chairman Schoaf, and I'll bring it to the budget committee. And we'll see. I understand it's hard to put these resources in, but we're just running around in circles.
Can we put that on the agenda for you to report back on what you learned? I was going to say you had the right resources to get things done.
We have a lot of things that need done.
And you're having to kind of, on the fly, mitigate and understand what's the highest risk in each particular day.
So I'd like to introduce a new topic since this is financial management. We're talking about accounting resources. It's a topic that's going to start circulating more and more as we start talking about the replacement of our finance director as he goes into retirement in the next 16 to 18 months. So
Set a date for retirement.
that will be the next thing that we're going to ask for is a firm we're gonna need, we can't hold you to it, but we're gonna need a target.
It'll be on or before June 30, 2020.
So we'll need a little bit, if you could think about that. But what I'm looking at is we're gonna need shadow time. So we're gonna need resources to cover Mr. Lawing and overlap, because we can't drop him off and then pick somebody up the next day. So we're gonna be bringing in more resources to cover that at some point, and we're gonna need to build that into the budget also. And if we're building in more resources, we need to look at that also at the same time.
I put in next year's budget right now for a request for 90 days, 90 work days for an overlap during the year for a start salary of 185, because I think that's what it's going to take us in. Is we're going to get around.
So if we're looking for a replacement in 90 days, I propose, and I'm going to propose it
for 90 work days.
For 90 work days, that if we stretch that out in the shadow, if we could pick up more time, maybe we could get some more resources towards some more of these items.
And then there's some logistics you've got to come over. The person's going to have a couple of requirements. They're going to be CPA with some amount of experience. They're going to be recommended by the mayor and agreed to by the county commission. So,
I understand.
since I'll be leaving, say, June 30, and we're overlapping, I'm sure if you're going to get anybody that's got a good job willing to come down here, because, I'm going to be leaving, working with me, and then overlapping to the next, they're probably going to want a contract with an agreement some way that that's going to move into that direction at the end of the day. If they've got a good job, I would come. So
And those
you're going to have to work with the mayor to determine who the mayor's willing to
Right, and these are
recommend.
discussions, right now, all I'm saying is we're already looking at a block of 90 days for you a shadow next year.
90 work days.
But if we extend that person, maybe we can pick up resource time to cover some of these others. Say if instead of 90 days, we brought them in for 180 days, then you could get some of these resources, you could become some of the resources to get these things done that we all need.
If you had them here 180 days or some long period,
That's not a
basically
long
when I was
period.
training them, I would go over and work on Chronos and some of the issues you don't have.
That's
That's what I'm saying.
That's what
day-to-day would be-
that's what I want to bring to everybody's
So
attention.
you would really need to start the search process right after we pass this budget.
Pretty much.
Yes, that's why I'm bringing it to the table for
But I mean,
discussion.
if you replace him, or you hire the replacement, and you're asking him to shadow for 6 months, I mean, you're gonna be paid a higher wage for that 6 months. But you're gonna pick up some additional cost. I mean,
Yes.
if you hired me to be your finance director, I'd say, why do I need 6 months to get up to speed on this job?
90 should be.
I mean,
But it isn't just 90 days. What I'm saying is then we could pull the additional resources and apply it to these items that we're.
that's for that interim period.
And there's some more things that we also need in the back end for budget and stuff that Mr. Long could do as the other person's coming on board. I just wanted to throw it out there so we can start seeing it as from a resource point.
Let me mention one more potential cost. It's according to how broadly you want to look. Because just like when we hired the first IT director, we actually hired a firm to help go hunt somebody. Right now, if you look at the AICPA, there's not an abundance of trained CPAs out there right now.
It's gonna be a challenge. We gotta get started sooner than later.
So do you want to put money out for a recruiting firm? They're very expensive. They're going to get you a better result, but do you want to put that kind of money?
Well, I think you gotta consider all the options. I mean, the way you try to do it first is do it organically. You can find somebody that the mayor likes and has confidence in,
And all I'm proposing now is that if we need 90 days of shadow, we could extend that to get more resources to these items that I'm wanting.
But now I'm going into plan B, is what's the process?
Well, we can start
And
talking
it's usually-
on that, we got a little bit of time.
Yes, but
So maybe you go organically first, before you spend money on search for them, see if you've got somebody that you want.
I will say, when David was hired, that was about a 6-month process, 6, 7 months from when we started looking till he came in the door.
Well, they was slow, we understand.
No, that's the file, man. Really overlap.
I mean, that's how long it took though to get somebody in
Mayor,
from when we started looking, so it's not like you can wait till October, November, December and start looking, thinking we're gonna have somebody in here in a month or two.
I think we gotta look as soon as this budget's over.
yeah, and like I said, all I'm saying is that I would like to extend those resources to maybe take care of some of these other things.
And I'm saying,
plans is right now, it looks very promising to say the end of June, but to be honest with you, I have my sick time this month, 30 years right now. So, I mean, I haven't enough time to retire like anytime.
So, if you could, like, we can't hold you to anything, but if you could give us something in the next couple of, you know, after budget, if you could give us something.
I mean, and
And so-
also after your retirement, if we need services, what's the cost? Would you be available to help us?
So,
And when I came in, there wasn't, the county was smaller, but there wasn't a real overlap. It would have been very helpful to find stuff what was going on.
and,
And things are probably, I'd say, more organized than we were then, so we're pretty well organized.
and if I could pull us back to the items. So as far as grants and projects goes, we're not gonna get anything on that until after budget, or after year close.
We're gonna run you a listing and try to straighten them up, so we're gonna do, but if you want to overlap the amount of each one, we're gonna have to manually do that, that's the issue.
So if you could just give us a project update next month.
And honestly, we may, as soon as we get these projects done, I may be able to move another person over there to work on that, that's kind of.
All right.
And we're running out of.
We move on to the item C, requested minutes, we've discussed that. Item D, a payroll item salary survey.
That's one where we discussed, and we can drop the data and send it to the salary survey individual and have her to work directly with the departments. That was when you guys kind of decided to wait off. We don't know where you want to run. I got a quote of what it was to update back in the budget. I don't know if the quote's still valid, if you want to call it.
What do you think the time frame with that would be? Would they get in here in time for,
I can email her in the morning to find out.
just let me know. So we'll just leave this on old business. Next time you'll come back with a cost and time frame.
I think if I can interject here, we keep dancing around this since I've been here. And to me, the bigger question is, what are y'all gonna do with it when you get it?
Depends on how it comes.
Well, I mean, but what's your goal here? Because I'm sitting here seeing, I'm trying to, for example, when I was hiring my paralegal, I got a paralegal I had to beg to get his rate they're at to see people going to the sheriff's department as a data processor getting $10,000 less.
I'd like to know what the salary survey does, if it can give us job categories.
They did last time.
And if we could come up with something, you know, we saw that schedule from Rutherford County.
We had one of these here last time. It's like that uncreated.
There's a full one, and that's where I keep going, all right, we keep getting this thing, what are we gonna do?
I would have to have legislation adopt to the policy to use it, but then that's a lot of buy-in.
My big thing right now is, do you want me to email?
That's my point, so you're gonna spend this kind of money, salary surveys aren't cheap. If you keep running them, what are you gonna do with them, is my only.
Because we keep running them and doing
And as
nothing.
a citizen, you know.
The prior commission ran it and did nothing.
Well, they gave some,
Did they implement it? Not bad.
they gave several raises on the last one, but it's not been updated for, I think, going on 4 years right now, that's the problem. So if you're gonna look at where your people fall in the ranges, you need to get them to do it, then make a set of ranges and just drop them all in and see where they're at, but you may or may not like the results. That's what Eric's saying, are you gonna act on the results when you get them, is the question. And you guys have done quite a bit of adjustments, they may be within market pretty well now. You may like it.
We still need a cost and a time frame.
I'll call them. What do you want, though? Do you want actual, a full-blown scale? I'll tell her that's more. She was given the classifications and the upper and outer ranges on both ends. If you want some other kind of scale, I can tell her tomorrow, what did you guys have in mind? I can hold it.
Thoughts? What do y'all think we need?
I mean, market salary is one small data point when it comes to hiring, when it comes to compensation, when it comes to planning. It's necessary, but it's a very small one.
I mean, can they take our current salary base and pressure test it, see if we're in range on?
The pressure test is the market, should turn over. I think we had a problem.
We got turnover, so
we had a problem a couple of years ago, and it sounds like it's maybe slowed down a little bit.
Well, we slowed down some. What we had last time, I think it's 1 through 14, that's 14 different ranges, and then the upper, lower scale, and then the midpoint. I think what Terry maybe wanted to see is the upper, the bottom, the midpoint, and see based if you spread it over 20 years where people drops compared if you did 20, something of that nature. that what you want to see? Kind of the.
I really and found it useful to look at Rutherford where they had all the job categories.
Bottom 20, well, we had the same thing, said it wasn't far across.
But I don't know, and if the mayor's here, I could ask him, and, I don't know if the elected officials would be happy with that. I mean, I can see pushback on that.
I remember when we were talking about this last year in budget, we were wanting to try to have it right about in March.
Mm-hmm.
Because we wanted it prior to the budget cycle.
And it was dropped back to decide to do it budget, and then I think we decided to slow down on it right now. But I can contact her in the morning, and she was just gonna basically update one. It's got the 14 things in the mid and all the stuff you're talking about. It's just 4 years old. So what she was gonna do is update for the market and for new positions. And then we could take that back to you, and you can do whatever you want to. If you wanted to take that up and bottom and dive it across between, compare them, not a hard copy.
That's for each category of employees.
I think there was, if I recall properly, I think there was 14 different job categories from the other ones.
That's exactly what we're looking for.
We have that back, it's 4 years old now, so it's very.
But she was bringing
Right.
today. Okay.
And I have a quote in there, and I think it may or may not be more or less now. I can find out from her tomorrow.
Well, there's always a trailing data, because you can't get it as of today. A 1 to 2 year lag anyway, but 4 years does seem quite a bit. I say 4 years old.
We haven't done an update since, and it's been, it was not the current county commission, but the county commission before, and I can't recall if it was their last year or the year one before last.
But if she has a category of employee and can bring it up to kind of real time, I think that gets us where we need to go.
Yeah.
But to your point, what are you gonna do with it? What if you find a band of those that are way under market, are you gonna adjust?
We have both. We have some low and we have some high. We already know this. I mean, this is done.
proper category?
And we have some, and that's the big question, and then how to get them in the proper one.
Hard to put an individual in a bucket like that.
But once we get it, as we go forward, then we can hire for the category. You know,
It's a good reference point.
Yeah.
I think whatever the cadence is, you decide the cadence and refresh it. If it's 4 years, great. If it's 5 years, great.
And,
18 months, great. I don't know that, but it shouldn't be the hallmark of when you hire and pay people should not be market salary data.
I'm sorry to throw this in at y'all, and I realize I was gonna just say I needed to leave because I have a community event I'm expected at as an official. But if I leave, we're out of quorum.
You need to table anything for next week?
Yeah.
Let me go to things really quick.
I know. I got 5 o'clock.
You got to 5 o'clock to be out, or 5?
I need to be there at 5. It's not far away. Okay, let's do it quickly.
Can we do Chronos bids?
Yes.
Go to page 126, and I have another handout that actually has a summary. There was 2 bids, and right now we're talking about another interface, so I'm not sure how that will affect it, but.
You got it all.
These are my voters I'm going to see.
But when we went down to the details.
To work for. Yes, sorry.
When we went down to the details of the 2 bids, the JK Seva Inc. has a lot more experience in telestaff is what we really need for EMS. They bid a total with an engagement of 135, but it's broken pieces. And when you go down to the details, what they had bid on the pieces was for the EMS to fix the telestaff and get the EMS ready for upload would be $76,500. The sheriff, we're looking at is work as you go, so it would be $185 an hour, whatever we need done. To do ECC and highway, ECC was $21,600 and it was $32,400. And then we're thinking probably, I'm just going through some of the.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
It's, the one that had the most experience is the Seva Inc. And they got 130,500 in there, and to kind of give you the details of what all is made up in there. There was $76,500 for EMS, ECC's $21,600, highway's $32,400 to make up those numbers. What we think would probably be the best fit if we're going to try to get Chronos ready for upload is to engage them probably starting this month. For EMS for the $76,500, work with the telestaff, work with their system, and try to get change management done with them, start uploading those folks. probably need at $185 an hour, somewhere below the remainder of the $100,000 to get the sheriff. We also got to figure out about the integration on this new system. And then look at next year doing ECC and highway, which ECC was 21.6, highway was 32.4, and then maybe about 10,000 for miscellaneous because we could complete the other small departments currently.
So all the numbers that you've articulated, what do they add up to?
Well, if you take the 76 and the 21.6 and the 32, comes to the 13500, and then we're thinking we probably need about another 20,000 or so for the sheriff if we're going to reconfigure and we're going to upload, and then probably about 10,000 miscellaneous as a hourly close.
About 160,000.
About 160.
So is that 20,000 for the sheriff, is that pretty
So that would be to reconfigure all the program he's wanting. He was to change paid from schedule, then we got to look at the CTRs. The same problem we're going to run into. The problem we've got with the sheriff is they're not, and they're doing much better, is they're all not signing off on their timesheets. So if they stop signing off on timesheets, we don't have any guarantee they're correct. Well, there's a lot of changes also being made after the sign-offs because of the missed punches and times. That's what's causing the issue why we can't correctly upload. So the lady over his department is basically creating an Excel sheet, comparing all these exceptions and trying to fix them.
A spreadsheet, and literally, she pulls the data view, she copies,
Right.
she pastes. So I'm not sure where they're.
So we're at 160. Where is the money coming from?
We got 100 in the budget this year, so if you did it this year, the 76.5 for EMS and then about 20 for sheriff, so they get you in the budget. And next year, we're talking bringing the budget down to 64. Completing it, at that point, having completion with the big ones, and then come back next year, discuss this holdback period and pulling all these little ones after we get the holdback.
So what are you asking for?
To approve us to go ahead and engage them to do the EMS on an as-need basis to help us complete the sheriff's department.
So what you're talking about is $100K?
Somewhere more than $100K.
Okay. So what I would propose, Madam Chairman, is that we move forward with the $100K, articulate that in the minutes, what we're trying to accomplish, but also indicate that there's another 60 that will need to be moved to next year.
JK said they need one more recommended.
Did this one have a guarantee in it?
Guarantee.
That they would complete on time, or did it have
There's
overage?
all kinds of things in RFQ and
They'll,
while looking at them, we think they'll do a good job. The problem you're gonna run into is if they give a guarantee, it's based upon cooperation from the department. So if we run into a lot of issues with the departments, they're gonna keep a record of a bill for $185 an hour, which actually $185 an hour is pretty cheap for anything. And that's probably pretty much market. This one was $185 an hour, the other one was $165 for one thing and $185 an hour. This my place was $180 an hour, so it's pretty well.
So if we move forward with this vendor at $100K, that gets you off and running, and in budget, we can reassess whether the $60K is the right number.
I think request the $60K, and then until we get EMS and get the sheriff resolved, don't move forward with anything else. We understand we're contracting for $100, potential for this work in the future, it works out.
And I don't want,
We gotta see progress right now.
I don't want a lot of information, but this contract here, it fixed our parameters in Coronas
And tell us that.
and telestaff at EMS. Will it also, I denoted some talk about retraining that we needed because they had been trained before and the training apparently wasn't correct.
For EMS.
Will this include training?
For EMS.
For EMS.
For EMS.
Yeah, EMS has telestaff to run training.
Okay.
So the thing is,
I mean, it sounds like a step forward. I'm good about
it's
it.
$180 an hour, so if we need something.
We get started in the right
We
direction.
can go in that direction. But I'm saying, do this step, and then if they're successful, work well, and get these off the ground, complete upload like we want with EMS, then we move forward.
Move forward. You may have a motion.
I'll make the motion, $100K.
So,
Second, the motion to accept the recommendation.
See the aim for $100K, reevaluate our budget. Yeah.
So basically, we're approving this, and spending the money, right?
If they're successful, hopeful future ventures with God.
Yes. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Vendor is approved.
And I think item G is a much larger discussion, you probably want to take this.
Yeah. Make a motion to table item G. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? G is tabled. New business was completed.
What about it?
F, I guess I skipped it. Oh, there it is, the purchase card.
I have the purchasing department working on those right now.
Yes.
She's been pulling them and looking at them and looking at limits and trying to average them out, so she's still working on it.
Item F, make a motion to move it to old business next time. Get a second?
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Did I skip any more? We've skipped all over this agenda. I'm so sorry.
I think